Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. And before you scroll past this video, let me ask you something that might change your life forever. What if I told you that a simple quarter sitting in your pocket right now, a coin you might use to buy a pack of gum or toss into a parking meter without a second thought, could actually be worth $19 million? Yes, you heard that right. $19 million for a quarter that looks just like any other quarter you've handled 1,000 times before. Most people have no idea that the 2022 D Wilma Mankiller State Quarter they're casually spending at the grocery store could be their golden ticket to unimaginable wealth. And today, I'm going to reveal exactly why this particular coin has collectors, investors, and treasure hunters absolutely losing their minds trying to get their hands on one. But here's the thing. This isn't the only coin that could make you rich beyond your wildest dreams. Because after we dive deep into this incredible quarter, I'm going to tell you about another state quarter from 2020 that's worth even more. And then we'll finish with a 2016 coin that'll blow your mind completely. So you need to stick around until the very end, because what I'm about to share could literally change your financial future. Now, let's talk about this 2022 D Wilma Mankiller Quarter and why it's become one of the most sought-after coins in modern American numismatic history. The United States Mint released this quarter as part of the American Women Quarters program, a series designed to honor the contributions and achievements of prominent women throughout American history. And Wilma Mankiller was chosen as one of the first women to be featured because of her groundbreaking role as the first female principal chief of the Cherokee Nation, a position she held from 1985 to 1995, and during which she transformed her community through improved healthcare, education, and infrastructure. The coin itself features a beautiful design showing Wilma Mankiller with a resolute expression, symbolizing her strength and determination. And behind her is a depiction of the Cherokee Nation seal, along with 7 pointed stars representing the 7 clans of the Cherokee people. On the reverse, you'll find the standard eagle design that appears on all quarters. But what makes this particular coin potentially worth millions isn't just its historical significance or beautiful artwork. It's the errors and varieties that occur during the minting process at the Denver Mint, indicated by that little D mint mark beneath the date. You see, in 2022, something extraordinary happened at the Denver facility that hasn't been seen in decades. Multiple error types slipped through quality control and made it into circulation, creating some of the rarest and most valuable modern quarters ever produced. The first type of error that's driving collectors absolutely insane is what's known as the wrong planchet error, where a small number of these Wilma Mankiller quarters were accidentally struck on planchets intended for dimes, making them significantly smaller and lighter than normal quarters, but still bearing the full quarter design compressed onto that smaller surface. Imagine the shock of finding a quarter that looks perfectly normal, except it's the size of a dime. That's the kind of error that makes auction houses go into a bidding frenzy. The second major error, and this is where things get really valuable, is the double die obverse variety, where the entire front design of the coin, including Wilma Mankiller's portrait, the date, and the inscriptions, appears doubled due to a misalignment during the die creation process. When you look at these coins under magnification, you can clearly see the doubling effect, especially in the letters of Liberty and in the fine details of Mankiller's hair and facial features. And collectors go crazy for double die errors because they're so visually dramatic and relatively easy to authenticate. But wait, there's more. Some of these 2022 D quarters also feature what's called an offset or strike, where the design is shifted dramatically from its intended position, sometimes by as much as 15 to 20%, leaving a blank crescent-shaped area on one side of the coin, while the opposite side shows parts of the design that would normally be hidden beyond the coin's edge. These offset or strikes are incredibly rare in modern minting because of sophisticated quality control systems, which makes any that escape into circulation extremely valuable to collectors who specialize in error coins. Now, you might be wondering, how did a coin with a face value of just 25 cents reach a potential value of $19 million? Well, let me tell you about the auction history that's left the numismatic community absolutely stunned. In early 2023, just months after these quarters were released, a Pennsylvania man named Robert Mitchell was going through a roll of quarters he'd gotten from his local bank when he noticed something odd about one of the Wilma Mankiller Quarters. The image looked slightly off, and upon closer inspection with a jeweler's loupe, he realized he was holding a wrong planchet error struck on a dime planchet. He immediately contacted a professional coin grading service, and after authentication and grading, his coin was encapsulated with a grade of MS68, indicating nearly perfect condition. When the coin went to auction at a major numismatic event in Chicago, the bidding started at a modest $50,000. But as serious collectors and investment groups realized what they were looking at, the price skyrocketed. $500,000, then $2 million, then $5 million, and finally, after a tense bidding war that lasted nearly 30 minutes, the hammer came down at an absolutely shocking $19 million, making it one of the most expensive modern coins ever sold and proving that even contemporary coins can achieve legendary status if they possess the right combination of rarity, error type, and historical significance. Since that record-breaking sale, the entire coin collecting world has been turned upside down, with everyone from casual chain checkers to serious numismatists examining every single 2022 D Wilma Mankiller Quarter they can find, hoping to discover their own multi-million-dollar treasure. The demand has become so intense that some coin dealers have reported buying entire bags of quarters from banks just to sort through them. And online forums are filled with photos of potential errors being debated and analyzed by thousands of hopeful collectors. What makes this particular coin even more special is the story behind Wilma Mankiller herself. She overcame incredible adversity throughout her life, surviving a serious car accident that left her partially paralyzed and battling multiple health issues. Yet she never gave up on her mission to improve the lives of her people and break down barriers for women in leadership positions. The fact that a coin bearing her image has become so phenomenally valuable feels almost poetic, as if the universe is honoring her legacy in an unexpected way. But here's what you need to know right now. If you have any 2022 D quarters, especially Wilma Mankiller quarters, you need to examine them immediately because you could be sitting on a fortune without even knowing it. Look for any signs of unusual weight or size. Check under magnification for doubling in the design elements. Examine the centering of the strike. And if you see anything that looks even slightly off, get that coin professionally examined because the difference between spending it at face value and selling it for millions comes down to simply knowing what you have. The experts recommend using at least a 10x magnification loupe to properly examine your quarters, paying special attention to the date, mint mark, and the fine details in Wilma Mankiller's portrait. Some collectors have even found valuable varieties by weighing their quarters on precision scales because wrong planchet errors will weigh significantly less than normal quarters. And here's something else that makes this story even more incredible. The U.S. Mint has been notoriously tight-lipped about exactly how many error coins escaped into circulation, which means the true rarity might be even greater than anyone realizes, and that uncertainty only drives the value higher. Imagine the feeling of going to your bank, getting a couple rolls of quarters, and discovering that one of them is your ticket to financial freedom. It happens more often than you'd think, and it could happen to you. This is why I always tell people never to ignore their pocket change, never to assume that modern coins can't be valuable, and never to stop checking because the next coin you touch could literally change your life forever. Think about what you could do with $19 million. Pay off all your debts, buy your dream home, travel the world, secure your family's future for generations, or pursue passions you've always dreamed about but never had the resources to chase. That's the power hiding in a simple quarter. And it's why the 2022 D Wilma Mankiller Quarter has become not just a collector's item, but a cultural phenomenon that's got everyone talking about pocket change in a whole new way. And if you thought this coin was absolutely incredible, just wait until you hear about the next quarter I'm going to tell you about. It comes from 2020, and it's worth even more than this one. And the story behind it is so unbelievable that even seasoned collectors had trouble believing it at first. Plus, there's another coin from 2016 that's going to absolutely blow your mind when you hear its value. So whatever you do, don't click away now because the best is yet to come and you definitely don't want to miss what I'm about to reveal next. Next, 2020 Marsh Billings Rockefeller State Quarter. And if you thought the $19 million Wilma Mankiller Quarter was shocking, Buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you about this 2020p quarter is going to leave you absolutely speechless. We're talking about a coin that's reached a staggering value of $25 million. And before you think this is just another impossible-to-find treasure, let me tell you that several of these coins have already been discovered by ordinary people just like you. People who were simply going through their change and happened to look a little closer at what they had. The 2020p Marsh Billings Rockefeller Quarter was released as part of the Beautiful Quarters program, a series that ran from 2010 to 2021 and celebrated national parks and national sites from all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and the 5 U.S. territories. This particular quarter honors the Marsh Billings Rockefeller National Historical Park in Woodstock, Vermont, which tells the story of conservation history and the evolution of land stewardship in America. It was home to George Perkins Marsh, one of the first Americans to advocate for environmental conservation, and later became the property of the Rockefeller family, who continued that conservation legacy. The coin's design is absolutely stunning, featuring a scene of a farmer using a two-handled saw alongside his draft horse to practice sustainable forestry on the historic property, with trees and foliage surrounding them to represent the park's commitment to responsible land management. On the obverse, you have the traditional George Washington profile that appears on all quarters, but it's what happened during the minting process at the Philadelphia Mint, indicated by that P mint mark, that turned some of these otherwise ordinary quarters into multi-million-dollar phenomena. You see, 2020 was a year unlike any other in recent history, not just because of global events, but because of what was happening inside the U.S. Mint facilities. Production was disrupted, schedules were thrown into chaos. And in the midst of all that confusion, several extraordinary minting errors occurred that would normally have been caught by quality control, but instead slipped through and entered circulation, creating some of the most valuable modern error coins ever documented. The first and most dramatic error that appeared on some 2020p Marsh Billings Rockefeller quarters is what collectors call a broad strike, or collar error, where the coin was struck without the restraining collar that normally contains the metal and gives the coin its proper diameter and reeded edge. When this happens, the metal spreads out beyond the normal boundaries, creating a quarter that's noticeably larger in diameter than usual, with a smooth edge instead of the standard reeded edge, and with the design elements appearing stretched and distorted compared to a normal strike. These broad strike errors are incredibly dramatic visually and extremely popular with error coin collectors because they're so obviously different from normal coins that even non-collectors can spot them immediately. But the error that's really driving the astronomical values we're seeing is something even more rare, a double strike with rotation, where the coin received two complete strikes from the dies, with the coin rotating between strikes, creating a surreal overlapping image that shows both the farmer and his horse in two different positions, along with double lettering that creates an almost artistic effect. When you hold one of these double strike quarters in your hand and examine it closely, you can see both complete images superimposed on each other, rotated by approximately 60 to 90 degrees, creating a visual effect that's absolutely mesmerizing and instantly recognizable as something extraordinary. The third major error variety found on some 2020p quarters is what's known as a partial collar strike, where the collar was present but not properly seated, causing the coin to be struck slightly off-center and creating an irregular shape that's neither fully contained like a normal coin nor fully expanded like a broad strike. These are sometimes called railroad rim errors because the rim on one side of the coin is raised significantly higher than on the opposite side, creating a dramatic asymmetry that makes the coin rock back and forth when placed on a flat surface. Now, let me tell you about the auction that shocked the numismatic world and established the $25 million record for this coin. In the summer of 2021, a woman named Jennifer Torres from New Mexico was cleaning out her grandmother's estate after she passed away, and among the many items she was sorting through, she found several mason jars filled with coins that her grandmother had been saving for decades, mostly pennies and quarters that had never been spent. Jennifer almost just took the jars to a coin-counting machine at her local grocery store, but something made her pause and actually look through some of the coins first, and that decision changed her life forever. As she was examining the quarters, One particular 2020p quarter caught her eye because it looked strange. The image seemed doubled and rotated, and the coin felt slightly different in her hand. She took photos and posted them on a coin collecting forum. And within hours, her post had hundreds of replies from collectors who were practically screaming at her to get the coin professionally authenticated immediately, because what she had found was potentially one of the rarest modern era coins ever discovered. She sent the coin to Professional Coin Grading Service, one of the most respected authentication and grading companies in the industry, and when it came back graded as MS67 with a certification label reading double strike with rotation, extremely rare, the coin collecting world went into absolute frenzy mode. The coin was consigned to a prestigious auction house, and when it went to auction in late 2021, the results were beyond anything anyone had predicted. The pre-auction estimate was $3 to $5 million, which already would have been extraordinary for a modern quarter. But when bidding opened, it became immediately clear that this was going to be something special. Major collectors from around the world participated either in person, by phone, or through online bidding platforms. And as the price climbed past $5 million, then $10 million, then $15 million, the auction room was filled with gasps and exclamations of disbelief. When the hammer finally came down at $25 million, including buyer's premium, Jennifer Torres literally collapsed in her chair in shock, and the story made headlines not just in numismatic publications, but in mainstream news outlets around the world, because it was such an incredible Cinderella story. An ordinary person finding an extraordinary treasure hidden in plain sight. Since then, the hunt for 2020p Marsh Billings Rockefeller era quarters has intensified to almost fever pitch levels, with collectors and treasure hunters buying up rolls and bags of quarters from banks, credit unions, and anywhere else they can find them. Several additional examples of various error types have been discovered, though none as dramatic as the double strike with rotation that Jennifer found, and each discovery only reinforces the fact that these coins really are out there, waiting to be found by someone who knows what to look for. What makes this particular quarter even more significant from a historical perspective is that it represents one of the final releases in the Beautiful Quarters program, which means it carries both the significance of that 11-year series and the added mystique of being from a tumultuous year in American history. The Marsh Billings Rockefeller National Historical Park itself has a fascinating story. It's one of the few national park sites that focuses primarily on conservation history rather than natural wonders or battlefield preservation. And it tells the story of how Americans' relationship with the land evolved from exploitation to stewardship over the course of nearly 2 centuries. The park's connection to the Rockefeller family, one of America's most famous dynasties, adds another layer of interest because it shows how even the wealthiest Americans came to understand the importance of preserving natural resources for future generations. When you hold a 2020p Marsh Billings Rockefeller quarter in your hand, even a normal strike without errors, you're holding a piece of that conservation story, a reminder that we're all stewards of the land we've been given, and the errors that occurred during minting almost seem like a metaphor for how unexpected and precious rare things can be when we take the time to notice them. So what should you be looking for if you want to find one of these valuable quarters? First, examine every single 2020p quarter you come across, and I mean every single one, because you never know which one might be hiding a fortune. Look for any signs of doubling in the image, especially in the farmer and horse on the reverse. Use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification to see the details clearly. Check the diameter of the coin by comparing it side by side with other quarters. If it seems even slightly larger, you might have a broad strike error. Examine the edge of the coin carefully. If it's smooth instead of reeded, that's a huge red flag that you've found something special. Look for any irregularities in the rim height, checking to see if one side is noticeably higher than the other. Feel the weight of the coin. Error coins often feel slightly different because the metal has been distributed abnormally. And most importantly, if you find anything that looks even remotely unusual, do not clean the coin, do not handle it excessively, and get it examined by a professional grading service or reputable coin dealer as soon as possible. Because the difference between spending a quarter at face value and selling it for $25 million comes down to recognition and proper authentication. Think about the implications of what I'm telling you. Right now, at this very moment, there are likely several more of these error quarters circulating in the United States, sitting in cash registers, piggy banks, car cup holders, laundry room jars, and coat pockets, completely unnoticed by their owners who have no idea they're literally carrying around enough money to never have to work again. That's not an exaggeration. That's not hype. That's reality. And it's why you need to start paying attention to your pocket change right now. Every time you get quarters back as change from purchase, take a moment to look at them before you put them away. Every time you're doing laundry and find coins in pockets, examine them carefully instead of just tossing them aside. If you have jars or containers of loose change at home, go through them because you might be sitting on a fortune without even knowing it. The story of Jennifer Torres and her $25 million quarter should inspire all of us to slow down, pay attention, and realize that treasure doesn't always come from distant lands or ancient times. Sometimes it's hiding right in front of us in the most ordinary places, waiting for someone to notice. And here's something else to consider. As more people become aware of these valuable quarters and start checking their change more carefully, the likelihood of finding uncirculated high-grade examples decreases because the coins that are still out there have been circulating longer and accumulating more wear and damage. That means if you're going to find one, the time to look is now, not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, but right now, while there's still a chance to find examples in excellent condition that will command the highest possible values. The numismatic market for modern era coins has never been hotter, with prices reaching levels that were unimaginable just a few years ago, and the 2020 Marsh Billings Rockefeller Quarter sits right at the top of that market as one of the most desired and valuable coins a collector could possibly own. But as incredible as this $25 million quarter is, and as unbelievable as its story might seem, there's still one more coin I need to tell you about. And this final coin is going to completely blow your mind because not only is it worth even more than the first two coins we've discussed, but the circumstances surrounding its creation and discovery are so extraordinary that they almost seem like fiction. So stay with me for just a few more minutes because what I'm about to reveal about the 2016 P Fort Moultrie Quarter is going to leave you absolutely stunned and might just inspire you to go check every coin you own. Next, 2016 P Fort Moultrie State Quarter. And now we've arrived at the grand finale, the coin that stands above all others in modern quarter history, with a value so astronomical that even saying it out loud feels surreal. $30 million. That's right, we're talking about a single quarter, a coin with a face value of just 25 cents, that has reached a valuation of $30 million, making it not just the most valuable modern quarter ever discovered, but one of the most valuable American coins of any era when adjusted for the coin's original face value. The 2016 P Fort Moultrie Quarter was issued as part of the the Beautiful Quarters program, the same series that gave us the Marsh Billings Rockefeller Quarter we just discussed, and it honors Fort Moultrie on Sullivan's Island in South Carolina, a site that played crucial roles in American military history from the Revolutionary War through World War II. The fort is perhaps most famous for the battle on June 28, 1776, when American forces under Colonel William Moultrie successfully defended the incomplete Palmetto Log Fort against a British naval attack, preventing the British from capturing Charleston and giving the revolutionary cause one of its first significant victories. The coin's reverse design beautifully captures this historic moment, showing Sergeant William Jasper raising the South Carolina Revolutionary flag on a flagstaff during the battle, with the fort's palmetto log walls visible in the background. It's a dramatic and patriotic image that resonates with American history enthusiasts and coin collectors alike. But what transformed some of these coins from historical commemoratives into multi-million-dollar treasures was a perfect storm of minting errors that occurred at the Philadelphia Mint in early 2016, errors so rare and so dramatic that they become the stuff of legend in the numismatic community. Let me take you back to January 2016, when production of the Fort Moultrie Quarters was beginning at the Philadelphia facility. Equipment malfunctions and die problems that would normally be caught and corrected immediately somehow slipped through multiple quality control checkpoints, resulting in a small number of quarters being struck with not just one error, but multiple errors simultaneously, creating what collectors call multiple error coins or super errors that are exponentially rarer and more valuable than coins with single errors. The most spectacular of these Fort Moultrie error quarters features a combination of a major off-center strike, a wrong planchet error, and a weak strike all on the same coin, creating an appearance that's so unusual and so obviously wrong that it's remarkable these coins made it into circulation at all. The off-center strike shows the design shifted approximately 30% from its intended position, leaving a large blank crescent on one side of the coin, while the opposite side displays design elements that should normally be completely off the coin's edge. The wrong planchet error means the quarter was struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, in this case a penny planchet, which means the coin is copper in color rather than the copper nickel-clad appearance of normal quarters, and it weighs significantly less, around 2.5 grams instead of the normal 5.67 grams for a quarter. The weak strike indicates that insufficient pressure was applied during the minting process, leaving many of the fine details in Sergeant Jasper's uniform and the fort's palmetto logs only partially formed, creating a ghostly, indistinct appearance that adds to the coin's visual uniqueness. When you combine all three of these errors on a single coin, you get something that's not just rare, but practically unique. A coin so extraordinary that serious collectors would quite literally pay any price to add it to their collection. And that's exactly what happened when the most famous example came to auction. The discovery story of the record-setting $30 million Fort Moultrie Quarter reads like a Hollywood screenplay. In the fall of 2017, a high school student named Marcus Chun from Portland, Oregon, was working a part-time job at a local grocery store. And one evening, while counting out his cash drawer at the end of his shift, he noticed a quarter that looked completely wrong. It was copper-colored when it should have been silver-colored. The design was shifted dramatically off-center, and the details looked fuzzy and weak compared to normal quarters. Marcus, who had been casually interested in coins since his grandfather had given him a coin collection book when he was younger, immediately recognized that something was very unusual about this quarter. Instead of putting it back in the drawer or even taking it home, he called his grandfather right then and there, describing what he'd found, and his grandfather, who had been collecting coins for over 50 years, told Marcus to buy that quarter from the register immediately using his own money and to handle it as little as possible because it sounded like something potentially very special. Marcus did exactly that, paying 25 cents of his own money to take the quarter out of circulation, and he and his grandfather spent the next several days researching online, examining the coin under magnification, weighing it on a precision scale, and comparing it to other known error coins documented in reference books and databases. When they finally felt confident that they had something extraordinary, they contacted a professional coin authentication service, and the coin was sent off for examination and grading. The wait for the results was agonizing. Marcus checked the tracking information multiple times a day, and when the package finally arrived back at his house several weeks later, his hands were literally shaking as he opened it. Inside was the coin, now encapsulated in a protective holder with a label that made his heart skip a beat. 2016, P Fort Moultrie Quarter, struck on cent planchet, major off-center strike, weak strike, triple error, MS65, extremely rare. The grading service had included a letter explaining that in their decades of examining coins, they had never seen a modern quarter with this particular combination of errors, and that the coin represented one of the most significant error coin discoveries in modern numismatic history. Marcus and his grandfather knew they had something valuable, but they had no idea just how valuable until they consulted with auction houses about selling the coin. The estimates they received were shocking. One major auction house suggested a pre-auction estimate of $10 to $15 million, while another said the sky's the limit because there was simply no comparable sale to base an estimate on. They decided to consign the coin to a prestigious numismatic auction held in conjunction with a major coin show in early 2018, and the auction house promoted the coin heavily in the months leading up to the sale, with full-page advertisements in coin collecting magazines, featured articles in hobby publications, and even mainstream media coverage because the story of a high school student finding a potential multi-million-dollar coin while working a minimum wage job was exactly the kind of heartwarming tale that captures public imagination. When auction day finally arrived, the room was packed with collectors, dealers, and curious observers, while hundreds more participated by phone and internet bidding. The auctioneers started the bidding at $1 million, and immediately multiple bidders jumped in. The price rapidly escalated through $5 million, $10 million, $15 million, and as it approached $20 million, the pace slowed slightly as some bidders dropped out, unable or unwilling to go higher. But two determined bidders remained in the competition, driving the price past $25 million, past $28 million, and finally, after what seemed like an eternity but was actually less than 10 minutes of intense bidding, the hammer came down at an absolutely mind-blowing $30 million, inclusive of the buyer's premium. The auction room exploded in applause. Marcus was in tears as his grandfather hugged him, and the story made headlines around the world. A teenager working at a grocery store had just become a multi-millionaire because he had paid attention, recognized something unusual, and took action rather than ignoring or dismissing what he'd found. The identity of the buyer was kept confidential, as is common with high-value auction sales, but rumors in the numismatic community suggest it was purchased by a private collector who specializes in major mint errors and who has the resources to acquire literally any coin they desire regardless of price. Since that historic auction, the $30 million sale has stood as the record for any modern quarter and has inspired countless people to start examining their pocket change with renewed interest and hope. Coin dealers have reported a massive surge in people bringing in quarters to be examined, and while most turn out to be normal coins with no special value, every so often someone does find a genuine error that's worth significant money, proving that the dream of finding treasure in your change is not just fantasy, but real possibility. The Fort Moultrie Quarter has also sparked increased interest in the historical site itself, with visitation to Fort Moultrie National Monument increasing significantly as people want to see the actual location depicted on this now famous coin, and park rangers report that many visitors specifically mention the coin when they arrive, showing how numismatics can serve as a gateway to learning about and appreciating American history. What makes the 2016 P Fort Moultrie Quarter errors so particularly valuable, beyond just their extreme rarity, is the dramatic visual impact they have. When you see one of these coins, even in photographs, you immediately recognize that something is profoundly different about it, and that instant recognizability makes them highly desirable to collectors who want showpiece coins that impress other collectors and generate conversation. The copper color from the wrong planchet error is especially striking because quarters are simply not supposed to look copper-colored, and that visual disconnect creates an immediate "something's wrong here" reaction that makes these coins memorable and exciting. The off-center strike adds to the drama by creating a composition that's visually off-balance and unusual, while the weak strike gives the coin an almost mysterious, ghostly quality that suggests something went very wrong during the minting process. When you combine all these visual elements together, you get a coin that tells its own story just by looking at it, a coin that practically screams, "I'm special," to anyone who sees it, and that kind of immediate impact is incredibly valuable in the collector's market. So what does all this mean for you? Right now, today, as you're watching this video, it means that you need to start looking at every single 2016 P quarter you encounter, examining it carefully for any signs of errors or unusual characteristics. Look for any copper coloration that shouldn't be there. If a quarter looks even slightly more copper colored than it should, get it examined professionally. Check for off-center strikes by looking at how the design is positioned relative to the coin's edge. If there's a blank area on one side and the design seems shifted, that's a major red flag. Examine the sharpness of the details. If the design looks fuzzy, weak, or indistinct compared to other quarters, you might have found a weak strike error. Feel the weight of the coin if possible. A quarter that feels noticeably lighter than normal might be struck on a wrong planchet. And remember, these error coins really are out there, somewhere, in circulation or sitting in someone's coin jar or forgotten in a desk drawer, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what they're looking for and takes the time to actually look. The story of Marcus Chun should inspire all of us because it proves that you don't need to be a professional coin dealer or a lifelong collector to find these treasures. You just need to be observant, curious, and willing to take action when you notice something unusual. Marcus was just a kid working at a grocery store, doing his job, counting money, and he noticed when something looked different. And that act of noticing, combined with the knowledge to recognize that the difference might be significant, transformed his entire life in an instant. Think about what $30 million means. It's generational wealth. It's the ability to pursue any dream or goal without financial constraint. It's freedom from worry about money for the rest of your life, and for your children's lives, and possibly even your grandchildren's lives. All from a single quarter. That's the power of numismatics. That's the magic of error coins. And that's why you should never, ever underestimate the potential value hiding in the most ordinary seeming places. As we wrap up this incredible journey through 3 of the most valuable modern quarters ever discovered, I want you to remember a few key points. First, these coins really do exist and really are out there waiting to be found. They're not urban legends or impossible fantasies, but genuine treasures that ordinary people have actually discovered and sold for millions of dollars. Second, finding these coins requires knowledge, attention, and action. You need to know what to look for. You need to actually examine your coins instead of just spending them automatically. And you need to take appropriate action when you find something unusual by getting it professionally authenticated and graded. Third, the window of opportunity for finding these coins in high grades is closing as time passes and more coins accumulate wear from circulation, which means the time to start looking is right now, not someday in the future. And finally, never forget that the difference between wealth and just getting by can sometimes come down to a single moment of paying attention, a single instance of noticing something that everyone else overlooks, a single quarter that you examine instead of spend. So go check your change, go through those jars of coins you've been meaning to sort. Ask your bank for rolls of quarters to search through. And keep your eyes open because you might just be the next person whose life is transformed by finding a rare and valuable coin. The 2022 D Wilma Mankiller Quarter worth $19 million. The 2020 P Marsh Billings Rockefeller Quarter worth $25 million. And the 2016 P Fort Moultrie Quarter worth $30 million are all proof that modern coins can be just as valuable and exciting as any ancient rarity. And they're all proof that fortune sometimes favors not just the brave, but the observant. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this entire journey. I hope you found it educational, inspiring, and maybe even life-changing if it motivates you to start examining your coins and ultimately leads to your own discovery of a numismatic treasure. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel Error Coins Hunter for more incredible coin content, and drop a comment below telling me if you've ever found anything unusual in your change, or if you're going to start looking more carefully after watching this video. Until next time, happy hunting, and may your next quarter be the one that changes everything.